Hello, Erica here, and I'm here today to do a review of The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I should note that this is the only novel of Donna Tartt's that I've read. I have not read The Goldfinch yet, I'm sorry. And that I quite enjoyed most of it. I did give this book 3 out of 5 stars in the end, and I'll go into the reason why I didn't rate it higher than that in a little while, but I did like the book overall. First of all, you should know this book was published in 1992 originally. It is about 250 pages long, and as far as genre goes, it's kind of a mix of literary fiction and like a mystery crime novel. I cannot talk about the plot very much, unfortunately, because it unfolds bit by bit. It's one of those books with a lot of layers. But essentially, you know, in the opening chapter or so, that the narrator and one of the protagonists is a young man at a university, and he and some other people have killed one of their friends. And the story kind of unravels from there and jumps around in time a little bit, but mostly it kind of works its way then back from the beginning to how they got to that point, to have murdered their friend. So, yeah, and it just kind of unravels layer by layer. You get to meet all these fascinating characters and learn a lot about them and the events leading up to this event. So, that's all I can really say about plot. Sorry it's a little convoluted. You really just have to pick it up and start reading it. I did read this with the BookTube Reading Buddies in May. And so if you would like to check it out, I will link to the discussion thread that we had about this book, because there are some very interesting discussion questions if you've read the book, and all the spoilers are marked. You can kind of read a little bit more about how everyone felt about it there. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. The whole time I was reading it, I was sure, I always leave bookmarks in my book. I was sure it was going to be a 4-star read. I was really enjoying it. I think that Donna Tartt's writing is extremely beautiful. And it was pretty much never going to be a 5-star read for me, because there are parts of the story that are a little dense. For example, the characters in the story study classics at a small New England university. There's a lot of references to ancient Greek and Roman philosophy and literature and culture that just went so far over my head. And there was just like a little bit too much explication on those topics. So I can't say that I really enjoyed that aspect of the book, but I was enjoying the story. I feel like these are some really intensely developed characters. I feel like Donna Tartt spent so much time on her characters, and they have so much depth to them and so many layers to their personalities, and that I really, really loved. That was fantastic. The main problem I had with this book, other than the fact that there was all of this Greek and Roman philosophy that I know nothing about in my personal life, which I guess is a personal problem, but whatever, is, I mentioned this in my May wrap-up, the epilogue of this book really killed it for me. It was so good. She could have left this epilogue out, and I would have loved this book. I would want to reread this book. I love it so much. This epilogue is so silly, and I feel like Donna Tartt just tried to wrap this story up in a pretty little bow and make sure there were no loose ends anywhere. And so there was nothing for me really to digest after the story was over. Like, I like a story with a few loose ends hanging. Like, I love the end of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, because you are like, what? And you have so much to think about and contemplate. But this book, it could have been like that if it weren't for the epilogue, but it didn't leave me any room to imagine what had happened to the characters after the end of the story. Like, I'm not a personal fan of pretty little neatly wrapped up stories, because they don't push me to think about what the book's trying to say or consider the possibilities for the characters moving onward. And I'm not saying I don't always hate that, but I hated it in this book in particular, and I found it to be very unnecessary. Other than that, I don't have a terrible lot to say about this book. Again, I can't talk about the plot too much. I told you the writing's great. I'll definitely be reading The Goldfinch, and what's the other one by her? Our Little Friend? Something like that. I would like to read that as well. But This one fell a little bit flat for me, and I'm not saying I hated it. It was a 3 out of 5 star review. I liked it. But I don't know that I would necessarily recommend starting here with Donna Tartt, because for now I'm in no rush to get to her other books, even though I do still want to read them. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm starting to ramble. Let's discuss this book in the comments. If you have any questions for me, let me know. And I will see you all soon. Bye.